Hello, it's been a while since I've been producing a video on YouTube, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on progress with regard to my Fourth Way Enneagram course. Now, I've completed one round, as it were, and other people are joining one by one, not in live video events, but sessions, but just doing the course online and then by means of email communication. But I've always said all along that this is a work in progress, and I'm learning as I go along, and I keep on coming across stuff which I think is useful. And one of the things I found very recently is a book by Rebecca Nottingham. I think that I'm not able to show it because I'm reading it on a Kindle version at the moment. But it's called, if I can just look it up, it's called let me just get the right title here, Fourth Way Teachings, Practical Methods on Inner Transformation by Rebecca Nottingham. I'll put the reference to that maybe in a description of this short video that I'm making. Anyway, what I found encouraging about what she says is that it addresses the issues which I've been particularly feeling is lacking a little bit in many of the Gurdjieff, or the way that Gurdjieff and the Fourth Way is presented. And I want to make it absolutely clear what the aim and purpose of the Fourth Way work is. And the Enneagram is simply a map describing the pathway, if you like, but actually the key thing is not the map, but the actual territory, and the territory is what Gurdjieff called the Fourth Way, and it involves a certain degree of effort, work. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there's not divine accompaniment to all of this and the energy of the divine that is coming alongside, but we have to create a sort of place in ourselves for that work of transformation to be able to take place. So Rebecca says in her book, the ultimate aim of the process of the work is to create authentic goodness in a person, a stable, unified, conscious being who can act from a self-transcendent goodness instead of self-love. And by self-love, she means egocentric love, rather than loving ourselves, as Christ said, we have to love others as we love ourselves. We can't love others if we don't have a proper self-love. So anyway, the process, she goes on, the process of doing the work begins with sincere desire to acquire the knowledge and ideas and practices, which is what I've been trying to communicate in the series that I've been giving. But it can only begin to create transformation within you when you begin to apply the practices and ideas to yourself. Knowing about it, thinking about it, talking about it will not lead to change. And I hope I've made that clear, both in my previous videos and during the course. Change requires, she says, an internal effort, and only the student can supply the force of effort that creates change. And in the case of the work, change means transformation from sleep to awakened consciousness, from egocentric psychology to self-transcendent psychology. Now, that is what I've been talking about in my sessions as well, the modules that I've got online now. Now, the process can be described in general as the purifying of the emotional center. And that means eliminating all the wrong work of the emotional center. There's quite a lot, and I need to develop this a little bit further about emotions and how to distinguish the emotions that are arising out of our ego personality and true emotions. But anyway, all of this is studied in detail in the process of self-observation. The angle which this is a perspective that she says, this is just continuing the quote, this angle is the perspective of uncritical self-observation. That means you're not judging yourself, you're just observing yourself free from self-recrimination. But that self-observation is the foundational practice of the work. And of course, then it can, and only then, it can evolve into a more permanent perspective of awareness. Now, a lot of the Gurdjieff groups, or at least stuff that's written and courses that are offered, focus very much on, if you like, gaining some sort of a power so that you can progress through life. But she says, and I think this is an important point, if you're interested in the powers you'll gain through doing the work, you should know exactly what they are. You will be able to transcend your personal needs on behalf of the good of others. You will no longer feel competitive. You will no longer feel the need to assert yourself, and you will be able to assert yourself if appropriate. Your actions, of course, will be motivated by goodness only, because goodness is the nature of being with a capital B, the nature of ultimate reality, into which, and this is my own addition to this, into which we are growing and becoming united. We are our origins are in being, and our pathway, and the pathway of transformation is back into being. Though your real I, she says, will not be tossed around by the circumstances of life. The real I will simply respond appropriately, always creating goodness. You will suffer less subjectively, and you will suffer more objectively. The point of that is to say that that the path is not easy. And again, I'm just recalling what Jesus said, about his path, that should be narrow and difficult. And Jesus made that perfectly clear. You will not feel inclined to go along with anything except conscience. Your conscience will grow and assert influence that can create real permanent change. It's evolution. So you'll experience peace and acceptance, serenity, appreciation, gratitude, joy, humility, forgiveness, freedom, conscious inspiration, intentionality in action. So anyway, the whole point of this process is that, we will not be able to grow in the work if our motives are basically self-interested. And so much of the approach that has come to be used and applied to this is basically sort of self-interest, in order to sell it for people, because people are more interested in, if you like, climbing the ladder or becoming powerful or whatever. But actually, that's not the whole point. We have to understand, Rebecca says from the outset, that it's far more about giving up self-interest and giving up gratification seeking than in gaining personal power. And this giving up of self requires immeasurable effort, work. And as I've said, the work is our contribution, to which we find when we begin to do the work that actually there is another and a different kind of energy that comes in. Christians have called this the energy of the spirit, and I will be saying more about this in the course as I evolve it and develop it a little bit further. So the work, she says, is a path to conscious evolution. This is, and she emphasized, and I would absolutely go along with this, this teaching is not my teaching. And what I produce in the course on the Enneagram, which, as I say, is a map of the pathway, is not my teaching. It's not even Gurdjieff's or Ouspensky or Nichols' teaching, for example. It could be said quite accurately that it is Christ's teaching, and yet still, with a particular understanding of time, it encompasses all teaching of objective truth throughout human history. And the expression of that was given through Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, and Nichols and others, and it bears witness to the content. So the aim of the work, to reiterate, is to deconstruct an acquired personality, an ego personality. And the way we do that is through the effort to illuminate and disempower it. So you're shining some light on it. And of course, the ego, what you're shining the light on is to show up what's in the shadow of your ego personality. in order to disempower it. And so the objective here is to purify the psychology, Rebecca says, of what is false and inauthentic and self-interested and negative, because these psychological conditions obstruct the development of consciousness. So she emphasizes, and I would concur with this, the work is difficult in places, it's dangerous in places, it's painful often enough, but the results, however, are liberating. The process of the work of becoming your real I leads to humility, which is liberating, and to be without gratification requirements, i.e. detachment, non-identified. And there's a great deal in the fourth way about not identifying with your own emotions, with your own pain, with your own story, and that sort of thing. And it leaves you free and receptive and open to inspiration from above. So that's a little bit about what I will be developing a little bit more in greater depth as I go through. Well, perhaps to complete this, I ought to just round up again with what this all means, which is that we are waking from sleep. Our normal condition is to be asleep, and I say a little bit more about this in the course itself. We do this, she says, to become the unique vessel we were created to be, in order to express creation, the nature of God in our own existence, in this life, in the world. And in doing so, we become the perfect servants of goodness and find fulfillment of meaning in our personal existence.